Hey everybody, good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Dave Hoffman here with the Supply Chain Logistics Hub channel. Wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about what I'm hearing a lot in the news as it relates to tariffs and how it affects the supply chains. So we've had a lot of uncertainty, I feel like, in the past several months, right? In the fall, we had the election, then we had the potential port strikes on the East Coast and Gulf, and then once Trump was elected, we had the election behind us. And now we're talking about the tariffs that he's chosen to implement, okay? And so when you think about that, you have all these various companies that have supply chains that are now global, right? And so certain products that we consume as Americans, how's that going to affect our consumption? Is it going to affect price? Is it going to affect availability? So what a lot of supply chain companies, what a lot of companies are doing, they're evaluating their supply chains, they're creating their war rooms, and what they're trying to figure out is, okay, if these tariffs are really to come to fruition, how can we delay passing on these additional costs? Because if you think about it, right, as Americans, we import a lot of products, okay, from a lot of various countries. But primarily where these tariffs are being targeted, right, is in Mexico, is in Canada, and China, okay? And they're some of our largest trading partners. So I kind of want to talk about two commodities just to start out with. We'll talk a little bit about steel, and we also will talk about the automotive, okay? So why is Trump doing this? He wants to be able to give the U.S. manufacturing community a more competitive edge, to be able to compete with some of these foreign manufacturers that can produce and make products for a cheaper price. Again, a lot of his platform has been America first. So when you think about this, right, I'm going to start with automotive, right? We import automobiles here into the U.S. Not only do we import automobiles into the U.S., we also import parts, okay, when you get your cars fixed. So what are some of the numbers I'm seeing on how it's going to affect this? So this tariff, or if you will, or this tax, I've seen anywhere from $600 to maybe $2,500 for certain automotive parts, an additional increase of maybe $3,000 per vehicle if these tariffs take effect. So these companies now, they can do a few things. As we're talking about the automotive, it's really hard to just shut down or move a manufacturing plant that's in Canada or Mexico into the U.S. That's not going to happen. So what could happen is those manufacturing plants start to scale back their production, or they could just shut down because, again, how's that going to look, or how will that be affected by the dealerships here in the United States as those cars start to come into the lot? Right? Are they going to sit there? Because as Americans are saying, hey, this is more expensive. You still have interest rates that are above the Fed's target. So this is something that, again, these manufacturers, these automotive manufacturers, are really starting to evaluate what can we do. Now, in terms of the parts, could they possibly import these parts from other countries that maybe aren't on the tariff list from President Trump? I don't know, but that's something I'm sure they're considering and looking at when they're evaluating their supply chains, okay? So now let's pivot a little bit to steel. The bulk of our steel, again, comes from China, Mexico, and Canada, right? So we use steel to build things. The automakers, going back to them, they use steel to build their cars. So when you're putting that tax on there, again, how's that going to affect certain goods, right? That's going to push the prices up. Now, as the consumer, a lot's going to be, I guess, kind of discovered, if you will, if the consumers are willing to take these price increases. As it relates to the auto, that's a little bit easier. But as far as when you have these developers, for example, that are looking to build warehouses, okay, they're going to have to evaluate and factor in what's the increased cost of the steel that I need to build these buildings. Am I still going to be able to cash flow when I build this product or make this warehouse, right? So that's going to go into it and see if that's going to slow construction down. So these are some of the things that I think a lot of companies are evaluating. And what will be interesting to see is, as far as their supply chains, how they pivot. Do they go to other suppliers, okay, outside these countries that aren't taxed? Do they maybe buy less? Do they front load their inventory? And this is something I've had several videos on where I've talked about certain companies, or all companies, particularly when the port strikes were on the horizon, right, bringing in additional product or inventory, whether it be raw materials or finished good, and stocking extra. So that way, if the port strikes were to happen, if these tariffs were to happen, you kind of can delay pushing off those costs onto the customer. So right now, it is really, for you supply chain professionals, myself included, who really love this stuff, it's a very unique time to work in supply chain. And I really think it's all about trying to bring these solutions to the table, figuring out how you can be more nimble, seeing where you can maybe find other suppliers. But I think the manufacturing component, that's going to be the most difficult because, again, like I said, you can't just pick a manufacturing plant up and put it in the United States. If there's in Mexico and Canada, and much has been talked about the nearshoring movement, which is going to take time, these products are coming in through those countries that have those tariffs that are being imposed on them. So unless they're going to try and ship them out to other countries to import them, but the United States is going to catch on to that, right? And they're going to say, well, if we're understanding where you're just circumventing us, and you're bringing it to other countries just to import that's not on the list, that's not going to last very long. So a lot of unique opportunities, a lot of colorful debate and discussion around what solutions we can provide as supply chain professionals, but definitely not easy solutions for sure. So just stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.